Welcome to the lecture series on vitamins and nutrition. Today we are going to continue further on vitamin C, and in today's session I am going to talk about the functional role of vitamin C, and we are going to look into the dietary sources of vitamin C, and we are going to talk a little more about deficiency conditions associated with vitamin C. So that's the plan of today's talk, and we are going to look at different roles that vitamin C plays in our body. So we'll start with vitamin C acting as a inhibitor of histamine. So you know, histamine is a compound which is associated with inflammation. It's a compound normally released during allergy, and we have this symptom called flush, flare and wheal. So all the redness, itchiness associated with allergy can be directly connected with histamine release. So you see here that vitamin C acts like a powerful antioxidant that tries to neutralize the free radicals, and this helps in not only counteracting all the allergic symptoms but also helps in treating the pollutants and toxins. So it's a kind of a neutralizing agent. So that's one of the reasons we say that taking vitamin C would really be a good thing to do as part of a dietary supplement. And now they have found one of the carcinogens, basically the nitrosoamines. As you see here, the nitrosoamines, and these nitrosoamines are the culprit which is actually added as part of nitrate containing foods. Especially in smoked meat, you find this nitrate containing foods. Generally they are added as a preservative in meat industry. So these nitrosoamines, which are formed as part of smoked meat processing, can be a very problematic ingredient leading to cancer. So that's why it's designated as a carcinogenic substance. And you find taking vitamin C would regenerate, especially in treating a condition like accumulated nitrosoamines. So generally, maybe once in a while, if you are going for a smoked meat and processed meat, it's okay. But for people who regularly take this kind of food, have to be warned that supplementing a diet with vitamin C could be a remedy to treat such conditions. And it's a continuation from the previous session. I told you that vitamin C is also useful to regenerate vitamin E. So you see there, vitamin C and vitamin E both are playing a mutually synergistic role as antioxidants. And the other point I would like to say, its role in the synthesis of collagen. And we have seen this in the first talk series concerned with vitamin C. Now I want to reiterate, and now I have just enlisted so that you would remember it as a flow of points connected with the functions of vitamin C. And you very well know that they act like a cement. All the collagen, connective tissues are put together, and you have muscles, blood vessels, bones, tendons are all cemented together by the connective tissue, and collagen is a very important ingredient. And vitamin C is essential in the collagen chemistry. And we know that vitamin C, when you are going to combine it with zinc, is going to be an excellent combination for healing of wounds. So you see, in all these 5 points, how vitamin C is essential in different aspects of our physiology. So in the first 2 points, you find vitamin C plays a role in nullifying or neutralizing the effects of pollutants, allergens. And in the next 3 points, we find how vitamin C acting like a internal booster for the normal physiologic responses of repair and healing. Either way, because the first 2 we cannot avoid because we are constantly being exposed to variety of industrial pollutants So taking vitamin D could give an extra margin of protection for us. We are going to look at in nutshell. I'm going to have some more functional roles explained in detail. So probably I would say how this would work, and then we will go back to that slide. So you see there how vitamin C contributes in the health of teeth and gums, preventing hemorrhages and bleeding. That's one of the reason when people lack vitamin C, one of the symptoms you find is bleeding gums, okay, and the dentition becomes a problem. So we could even take it like this: when people show symptoms of bleeding gums, it could be a reason that this person is not taking adequate amount of vitamin C. And also, if you look at vitamin C, when you're going to supplement with folic acid and riboflavin, it helps into the overall oral hygiene and dentition. And we know if bleeding gums would be a problem, it could predispose this particular person who's having the symptom with more complications, because you see, oral cavity, you have plenty of microorganisms, and a bleeding gum can actually become very problematic, because these pathogens, which actually have a symbiotic relationship, and some of them are real pathogens, and if they're going to find their way through the inflammatory tissues, can even reach systemic circulation and could be a source for septicemia and more complications that can even lead to death. So these are all the extended or extrapolated complications that could result, starting with a simple hemorrhaging and bleeding of the gums that could very well be prevented by vitamin C supplementation. And you look at this picture of how vitamin C plays a role in iron metabolism. This we have seen in the first lecture. Anyway, I will reiterate it, and we see how this also plays a role in the metabolism of bile acids. So we could make a connection between blood cholesterol and gallstone disease, and probably vitamin C intake could have a good impact on blood cholesterol control and gallstones. So people who already have hypercholesterolemia, it means a condition where you have more cholesterol in their blood. It could be genetic or it could be dietary intake of more cholesterol. In any case, that could predispose a person, especially when taken or when the levels are high than what is normally needed. I am not talking about completely avoiding cholesterol, because it's one of the key ingredient for hormonal synthesis and variety of other role that they play in our body. As you know very well, anything in excess could be damaging. So excess of cholesterol can attract inflammation, and we know right now excessive cholesterol could trigger inflammatory process, and that's actually not needed, and that could aggravate an underlying disease. And you know very well how gallstones, which is basically cholelithiasis, condition where more gallstones can even block the biliary secretion. And now this is an important thing, even this we mentioned earlier. So I would like to say that it's important in the peptide hormone synthesis and neurotransmitter synthesis and carnitine. So you see there, their role is very essential. So vitamin C acts like a cofactor in all these endogenous compounds which are needed for normal physiology. So we also look at vitamin C's role to deal with oxidative stress present in the eye. Okay, so you have this disease AMD, age-related macular degeneration. So macular degeneration can lead to irreversible blindness, and we do have vitamin C playing a very crucial role, probably through its antioxidant effect and also through its role in enabling the synthesis of key material that would maintain the integrity of vasculature, and that way they help. So we have taken into consideration how vitamin C and zinc help in treating macular degeneration. So for people who have this condition or an early onset, are recommended to consume more vitamin C to treat these conditions and improve the outcome of therapy. Now, let's look at this interesting phenomena of vitamin C absorption. Now we have very well convinced that vitamin C intake is very essential for a normal health of an individual, as they play so many essential role. So before we go on with this, I would like to summarize how vitamin C plays an important role of treating the conditions. And you see there, we can take it like this: in immune stimulation, as anti-allergic, as antioxidants, as cementing and wound healing, and the dentition, and in iron absorption and high health. So this is the list. So if you look at the dietary supplements, we have seen this earlier, but I am just summarizing. So you have variety of dietary supplements: acerolas, black currants, peppers, broccoli, fennel. So most of the fresh fruits and citrus family of fruits, they actually are rich in vitamin C. And you have gooseberries, which are supposed to be one of the best sources, although I have not mentioned here, because gooseberry is not a very staple diet in European and Western civilization, whereas it's one of the easiest sources for vitamin C in India. So we have to take into consideration, most of the literature what I have taken, they have focused on the diet that is more prevalent in Western societies, because they are the people who had contributed a lot in the rational study of nutrition and vitamin. Whereas in India, traditionally we have been taking all fresh fruits and vegetables, and some of the vegetables are more rich in vitamin C than the list what we see over here in the Western society, because of obvious biodiversity reasons. The variety of vegetation that we have, an enrichment or an access. See, even we have mangoes and a lot of other natural fruits available in Indian and tropical countries that are equally rich in vitamin C. And here is a list of all the enzymes. And lysine degradation is a function by gamma butyrylobutane dioxygenase. So you have the EC number. EC number tells you exactly the detail of all these vitamins, their characterization, everything is documented. And you find procollagen proline dioxygenase, procollagen lysine 5 dioxygenase, and you have a list of all the enzymes mentioned here and their corresponding function. So if you look at lysine degradation, it's an amino acid, so collagen synthesis, fatty acid metabolism. This is a neurotransmitter, norepinephrine, or in other words, noradrenaline synthesis, peptide hormone synthesis. And that's the reason we saw in the previous slide how vitamin C plays a very important metabolic role. So this is basically a concise list, or rather a very scientific list, which I have taken from Bilson and Giswald. Actually, it's a medicinal chemistry book, but they give a very detailed study about vitamin C's chemistry. And you find there all the list of these essential components, lysine metabolism. And lysine is a very important amino acid, it's an essential amino acid. Lysine in itself is a very rare amino acid, and it's an essential amino acid. And you find how vitamin C, being important key role contributor in lysine metabolism, since lysine metabolism is a very delicate affair in our body, for obvious reason that it's a essential amino acid, any deficiency in vitamin C could have a major impact, and that could find its way in easily showing symptoms which we normally associate with scurvy. Now we are going to look at the absorption of vitamin C. Something very interesting to note over here. You see there, we know that vitamin C intake is essential, and people could easily get into a wrong judgment of taking more vitamin C. So you have this picture of vitamin C. If you're going to take 30 to 180 milligrams. So you see there from 70 to 90% it's absorbed. So up to, let's say, 200 milligram, if you're going to like make it round off, 30 milligram to 200 milligram, you find there is a good increase in the amount of vitamin C that could absorb into your system. But 50% of a single dose of 1 to 1.5 grams, if you're going to take, only a 50% is going to get into your system. Whereas in this dosage, the absorption is high. And if you're going to increase to 1.5, okay, from 1 gram to 1.5, almost a drastic reduction in absorption happens. And you see, interesting enough, if a person is going to consume 12 grams, hardly 16% availability is there. So what do you understand from this? You can't indiscriminately keep on adding more vitamin C in your diet. So it's going to be useless, because the more quantity you're going to take, lesser it's going to go into your system. So the safe limit would be 500 milligrams is the safe limit, because up until 500 milligram, our body would use sodium dependent active transport mechanism. So this mechanism is dependent on the concentration. So you have a ceiling limit of 500 milligram, things are going fine. But at higher concentration, since this transportation system gets saturated, now it depends on simple diffusion mechanism, and that's one of the reason there is a barrier now as to how much amount of vitamin C that can enter into your system. So the summary of this discussion on absorption of vitamin C, we could conclude, always stick on to the recommended dosage, either by the physician or by the nutritionist who recommends the dosage. So taking too much is not going to really help, because taking too much is not at all even going to enter your system. So what will happen to that excess? Obviously it will be passed in your large intestine, and that's obviously going to give you more trouble by causing diarrhea. So now look at the body stores of vitamin C. So being a water soluble vitamin, see, most of the water soluble vitamin, we have discussed about this in detail in earlier classes, and you see here water soluble vitamins are generally have a lesser chance to be retained by our body compared to fat soluble vitamin. I have explained about this earlier, you can refer to my previous lectures. Now we are going to focus only on vitamin C, and we have an average tissue storage of vitamin C, that's something around 20 milligram per kg body weight. So this is our ability to store vitamin C. We understand if we are not going to take vitamin C on a regular basis, our storage of vitamin C being very meager, we could run out of, and we could easily go into deficiency conditions. So that's one of the reason it's always advisable that we take vitamin C on a regular natural form, or at least as a supplement. And the highest concentration, you see, the earlier first talk I gave you a list of all the organs where the vitamin C is accumulated. Now a special note, pituitary gland has more, like 400 milligram per kg, and you do have other organs like adrenal gland, liver, brain, and very interesting thing to note here, leukocytes, WBC cells, they also concentrate vitamin C, probably because they are involved in lots of free radical mediated damage to pathogens. Maybe vitamin C is required for tissue integrity and for synthesizing variety of other substances that help in the homeostatic movement of immune responses. And here we have the influence of storage and preparation of vitamin C loss in foods. You have potatoes, fruit, apples, milk. So you have all this food which are being good source of vitamin C, and you find the storage is like up to 1 month, and after that there is a 50% loss. So for fruits there is 20% loss, and for apples up to 100% it's retained, and for milk you see there 25% loss. So if you're going to sterilize, there is a 50% loss of vitamin C. Air drying equally, and canning procedure, yes, it's less. So now you see there, this would give you a picture, concise picture of how vitamin C has to be processed in food industry. So this is a concise table that helps us to understand how much vitamin C is lost in all these processes in storage and preparation in food industry, and relatively we would be in a better position to understand this overall picture and accordingly either supplement with more vitamin C as part of shelf life protective measures and make sure the final food doesn't run out during its shelf life period. And always we need to be aware that vitamin C is sensitive to heat, light and oxygen. So one of the reason why there is a 50% loss or 20% loss, except for apples, if you're going to store it for a period of about 10 months, the vitamin C content is preserved. So that way apple could be a good source, or apple supplemented related products could be a good source in containing vitamin C for a longer period of time. And you should also be aware that any food, if you're going to cook it for a long period, obviously that will destroy vitamin C, or overcooking destroys vitamin C. So if a person is keen in taking vitamin C from a natural source, it's always advisable that we don't overcook or do any measures that might destroy the vitamin C content of the food. Generally, maybe for children we boil apples and give. Maybe that's not advisable. Maybe it could still retain the mineral value, but it's questionable whether vitamin C would ever reach the infant. And refrigeration, as you see there, can substantially minimize vitamin C. So if you're going to store your fruits and all your dietary products in fridge, you might retain the way in which vitamin C gets lost over a period of time. Now we have the dietary recommendations of vitamin C, and here is a picture of how vitamin C need gradually increases. So you see there in the infants there is an increase of 40 to 50 mg, and I want you to be aware of these dietary values. Normally the dietary values are represented as dietary reference intake, and you have 4 set of reference values. The first one being the estimated average requirements, then you have recommended dietary allowance, and then you have the adequate intakes. I have dealt with this in the first set of our introductory slides, and you can refer there how the limits have been set. And here you have the UL, what we call it as the upper intake level, which has replaced the RDA calculations, and this helps us to plan exactly how much amount of a particular vitamin should be taken per day. So accordingly we find the AI adequate intake need for children between or up to 3 years is 15 mg, and you see there is a drastic increase and the levels keep increasing, and you find for male it is high and for female it is less, but you find during pregnancy the level increases obviously because the mother has to consume more for the fetus and for lactation purposes, and you see maximum during lactation. So in any case an average intake of around 100 mg would really prove to be good supplement to maintain vitamin C levels, to prevent not only scurvy and also improve many of metabolic functions in our body. We are going to go into deficiency conditions of vitamin C, and you know very well the scurvy has been a major problem, and we have already made the connection of how collagen synthesis and maintenance is dependent on vitamin C and the key easy numbers of enzymes we have seen. So This would start with a simple symptom like fatigue, lassitude, loss of appetite, drowsiness, followed by hemorrhage. All these are indications for vitamin C. In a full blown scurvy, there would be more widespread internal bleeding. So, obvious symptoms would be seen in the gum, okay, and the condition becomes really worse. And I want you to look at this particular word called petechia. So, it's a minor capillary bleeding or pinpoint bleeding under skin, and all this can lead to gangrene because skin, oral cavity are already rich in microbes, and any kind of inflammatory condition and especially bleeding can actually invite trouble, allowing these otherwise harmless microorganisms limiting their growth within the barrier of immune system are now given a free way to directly enter the zones which are forbidden for them to enter, the sterile region of our body. There is an easy chance of gangrene, and that could eventually lead to septicemia and complications. So you see, it all starts with the integrity of your connective tissues being lost because of vitamin C, and this eventually picks up and the full blown scurvy comes. Okay, so for healthy skin, for healthy oral cavity, for healthy connective tissues, you need vitamin C. So you look at the symptoms mentioned here: inadequate storage and preparation. Yes, that's one of the reasons. We might be thinking we are eating healthy diet, but we would have destroyed vitamin C in our diet. So we should be careful in looking at the way we prepare it. Then there could be problems connected with GI disturbance where absorption of vitamin C is impaired. That happens in diarrheal diseases. Stress and exercise where the demand is more and we are not taking it adequately. And we know very well other vices like smoking, drinking, and underlying systemic diseases like diabetes, and an extra demand, as in the case with pregnancy and lactation, needs a special attention of vitamin C supplementation. And because infection, smoking, diabetes is an underlying disturbance to the homeostatic mechanism, and that's how we address it. And if you recollect in the beginning of the slides, I told you how the environmental toxins, and you know very well smoking is a wonderful source for carcinogen exposure to an individual, and that can actually have a demand, and the reserves of vitamin C may not be adequate to really nullify or neutralize the continuous harm being invited by the carcinogens present in the smoke. And you look at this picture, which is the scorbutic tongue, one of the classical symptoms connected with scurvy and vitamin C deficiency in children. And you have some more examples. So you look at this picture of triangle shaped area, okay, between the teeth. It's like reddened. Okay, so it shows like internal bleeding has already started. And you also have this picture where the scurvy line can be pointed out, okay, as shown in the arrow. So there is a degenerative change happening because of loss of collagen, and the connective tissue integrity is under stake because vitamin C is essential in maintaining them. Now, finally, we move on with the applications of vitamin C in food industry. Now, this is something very interesting because so far whatever we have seen for vitamin C is all connected with the clinical issues and deficiency conditions. But vitamin C use in food industry is not only as a nutrient supplement but as its own advantage. So that's what we are going to look at over here. So ascorbic acid in this way is a well known safe antioxidant or as a food additive. So when you add ascorbic acid, it has this natural preservative property. So it tries to fortify the color, aroma, and nutrient content of the food. So it has nothing to do with the vitamin action. So in that way, you have to look at the amount of vitamin C which is normally needed as part of the dietary requirement for a person who is consuming that particular food product. But the food experts or food technologists recommend adding vitamin C as a safe additive because it's a well-known nutritive additive. So in addition to the nutritive benefit, the inherent use of vitamin C could even minimize the amount of food preservative and stabilizers that we add in the food processing technology. And you see there in the meat processing industry, adding vitamin C, okay, so you have this nitrite and residual nitrite content in the product, okay, can now be taken care. So meat industry adding extra bit of vitamin C according to the calculated need can really encourage their product consumption by minimizing the effects of nitrite derived byproducts which otherwise would end up being carcinogens. This point we have already seen. Now you also see how vitamin C, when you are going to add to fresh flour, improves the baking quality. Okay, so saving 4 to 8 weeks of maturation of flour, so after milling. So you see, as a processing additive, not only this is concerned with nutritive value, but whole lot of advantages we have in food technology. So I'm going to wind up today's session, and that's a quick recap of what we have done today. We have seen elaborately on the functions of vitamin C. We have seen the way how vitamin C gets into our system, the peculiarities of vitamin C absorption connected with the dosage that we take. Then we also saw the deficiency diseases connected with vitamin C. And finally, we finished off with non-nutritive uses of vitamin C in food technology. And I'm going to finish and ask a question. Give me the list of advantages or clinical advantages that we have for consuming vitamin C. Describe the symptoms of scurvy and role of vitamin C in the treatment of scurvy. The third question would be, what are the dietary requirements of vitamin C and how we have to process our food to retain vitamin C potency. And the last question, give the list of food technology applications for vitamin C. I hope this lecture was useful, and we hope to look forward for future discussions. Thank you.